Hi everyone, welcome back to the episode of Ask Dr. Nick. My name is Dr. Nick Schmilkoffer and I work for the Neurologic Wellness Institute. And on today's episode, we are answering the question, should neck exercises be used to decrease concussion risk? And the short answer of that is yes. But the long answer is what type of neck exercises and how long should they be used, etc. So we're going to discuss a review article today that's relatively new, discussing 6 studies. Those studies either show that neck strength in general can decrease both neck injuries and sports-related concussion, but also neck exercises that are involved in injury reduction programs can also decrease concussion risk, decrease neck injuries as well. So all neck and head injuries. And so let's get right into the paper. The paper is it's called the Injury Reduction Programs for Reducing the Incidence of sports-related head and neck injuries, including concussion. And again, it's a systematic review. It's from June 2021 in the Journal of Sports Medicine. And they basically talk about how sports-related head and neck injuries, including concussion, is a growing global public health concern. And so this study is to investigate the relationship between neck strength and sports-related head and neck injuries. And then also whether neck exercise programs can reduce the incidence of sports-related concussion and those head and neck injuries. So they initially found 593 studies through this search, but they only included 6 because based on were they randomized controlled studies, or were they actually trials, or were they review articles? Did they include data on sports-related concussion or not? And so they found 2 observational studies looking at how higher neck strength, but not deep neck flexor endurance, is associated with lowering the risk of sustaining a sports-related concussion. They also found that injury reduction programs that include neck exercises can reduce the incidence of sports-related head and neck injuries. So, obviously they concluded that injury reduction programs should be used to possibly reduce the incidence of sports-related head and neck injuries, including concussion. What's cool about this paper is they have a nice infographic that also discusses these points. And so I really like it because we can chat real quick about this. So basically, what is already known on the subject? What's already known is the incidence of and burden of sports-related head and neck injuries is high, and adolescents and females are more at risk to take longer recovery from sports-related concussion compared to adult males. Okay, we know that adolescents and females have a smaller or a weaker neck strength compared to adult males. That's just due to growth, but also strength training that generally occurs in adult males. And so before we go on to what are the new findings and the results, the reason why neck training is perceived to be important for decreasing sports-related concussion is because in order to sustain a concussion, there has to be some sort of rotational movement of the head. So rotational this way, this way, this way, this rotational movement. It's not just like a side-to-side or a forward-back, side-to-side type movement. And that rotation causes the brain to then move excessively, producing the concussion. And so if the individual has stronger neck muscles that are resisting this head or neck movement upon head impact, and can quickly anticipate and then react and strengthen and tighten those neck muscles to prevent the movement, then a concussion is less likely to occur. And so this is why there have been many studies that have looked at this in the past. Again, this article is just looking at 6 major ones, but I've looked through all of them. I've looked through multiple other ones, and I think it's a really good article for us to review. So what are the new findings? Athletes with greater neck strength have a lower risk of sustaining sports-related concussion. That's great. And injury reduction programs which contain neck exercises can reduce sports-related concussion and all head and neck injuries. basically, of the 2 observational studies, they showed that higher neck strength is associated with lower risk of sustaining sports-related concussion. Again, this was with 6,792 male and female high school and university athletes, which is a very high number, which is nice. 4 interventional studies using these injury reduction programs. What they did, first of all, almost 4,000 people, predominantly male, but also probably male, adolescent, and adult rugby players. But there was one study that wasn't rugby players, and it was from a high school that used football players, male and female soccer players, and female volleyball players. And they looked at how the injury reduction exercise programs that included the neck exercises could reduce the incidence of sports-related concussion. So, what were these exercises they were doing? The injury reduction programs included balance and like perturbation training. So basically, working on more proprioceptive or vestibular balance training. They did resistance training, which resistance training was full body, but it included neck resistance training as well, neck exercises. In the rugby players, they also included specific landing, cutting, and falling methods that were more like sports specific, more rugby specific. In the high school that looked at football and soccer and volleyball players, they did more mobility, agility, the strength and resistance training, stability of the neck, and flexibility. And in all of them, they found a great reduction in sports-related concussion. One of the rugby studies found a 60% reduction in sports-related concussion, while the high school actually found about an 11 concussions per year average decrease down to 2 concussions after doing this program for 2 years, or for each of the 2 years that they did it. So what neck exercises should be done? Specifically, things that include all planes, like rotation left and right, up and down, and rotation side to side. Basically, if we can strengthen the neck in all planes that way, that can improve or may possibly decrease the risk of sports-related concussion. One other thing that's mentioned here is they recommend that future research focuses on the neuromuscular responsiveness of neck muscles in athletes, particularly as the adolescents and females, right? And neuromuscular responsiveness is basically how quickly does the muscle turn on once hit, right? Because once hit, we want the muscle to turn on to prevent that movement, not to have this like quick jolt of movement. And so neuromuscular training, neck training in athletes should enable generation of maximal tension in the shortest amount of time in order to enhance head to neck coupling, and thus make athletes better able to resist these external forces of head impacts. So let's come back. What this review shows is that higher neck strength is associated with a lower incidence of sports-related concussion. Therefore, we should probably train neck muscles for athletes that are in contact or higher collision sports. And in order to train that, we should train it not only with isometric exercises like holding against an object or against a hand in multiple planes, but we should also be training neuromuscular responsiveness, so the ability to anticipate and quickly turn on those muscles. So how fast can we accelerate those muscles? How fast can we actively work on those muscles to contract, to prevent the head and neck from moving at a quick rate to then possibly cause a concussion. So I hope you enjoyed this one. I really like this one because I think concussions are so important, especially in athletes, that we need to do everything we can to decrease the risk of concussion incidents. So if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. If you have any suggestions for future topics, I would love to hear them. Thanks again, and have a great day. Stay healthy.